Hello, and welcome back to the channel, everyone, and welcome to Stationeers. I am a Gritty Crow, and today I figured we'd jump in and I would try my hand at a mini-series for tutorial and a getting started-esque guide for Stationeers. It can have quite a big learning curve, can be very daunting, but it's a very, very enjoyable game once you do get into it and you start playing with the systems in here. But that initial setup, learn, and how do I do X can be a bit of a hurdle to get over. So, this little mini-series is hopefully going to help alleviate some of that issue and allow people to get into the game a bit easier. So, we're going to go ahead and do a new world. We're going to use Mars because it allows access to pretty much all of the systems you can do in Stationeers at more of the lowest difficulty you can do it. So you can play with pressures, the atmosphere, all the other things in a relatively benign environment. There are challenges and things to it, but Mars is mostly the challenge that you make of it. Kind of what you want to get into. Other planets, Moon, Mimas do not have atmospheres, so you'll have to deal with the vacuum of the world and different challenges for cooling or heating and different things. Europa is incredibly cold, so you need to worry about getting it heated. Asteroid belt is, well, you're in space on a pseudo-ship-esque thing to fly around, get your minerals from asteroids in the vicinity, build up your ship, and continue on. And then Venus has a huge temperature swing from in the day is almost 500 C to at night is very, very, or much colder, 123 C. Big temperature variance there, and then Vulcan is just always hot and very high pressure. So they offer you different challenges and things, but I think Mars is going to be the best for the introduction and is where I would recommend any new player go and start. So next, we're just going to leave it on normal difficulty. We don't want too much of an increase to all the other metabolism and everything else that you get with the stationary difficulty, and we don't want to go on easy because it will disable some of the things we want to play with, like the weather. Well, weather damage to the lander will stay, but it might get blown around. But we do want to use the normal difficulty to get the best feel of the game. So it's not difficult by any means. You can go easy. You still do experience your metabolism. You have higher mining yield rates. Lung damage is lower. Things like that you see over here on the right hand side. But we're going to stick with normal. Next. And then we're going to do a standard start. We want all of these starting supplies to play with. You can do brutal, but it is a very minimalistic start. You can hover over these and see kind of what you get out of each of these. And the minimum supplies here for the brutal, you get a very, very small amount of things. But the standard start affords us quite a bit extra pieces here on the lander. Extra fuel tank. We get a lot of construction supplies to start with. Electrical components, hydroponics, survivals, airlock kits, and then your capsule always starts with some water and cereal bags. But that is us. We're going to call our world Mars Tut. Just short for tutorial. Don't read into it too much. And we're going to go ahead and start game. And here we are, falling straight in my body, my headless body. Got some things here you can see just to my side. I do actually have surprise. You can grab these couple of things. So now that our hatch has popped off, go ahead and push ourselves forward. You can actually take these out. So it's a bag with some boneless cereal bars in it and some extra water bottles for you to use and sustain your life in the early game. Also, we got our fuel tank is flown way over here. Let's just grab that and drop this near our lander, where we're gonna leave it for the first few days here. Yes, and now the lander has all those boxes of supplies that we saw. You can hover over them and see what's what. What we want to play with first are the construction supplies. There's also these helpful little getting started hints and like little objectives you can follow. We're going to go ahead and F2 just to minimize that and get it out of our way. We're not going to be using that. What we will do, though, is if you hold the left alt, you can move your cursor around. You can grab things, interact with the environment, your toolbars. You can open up all of your things here on the left. So your helmet, if you want to do some changes to that, your suit, your jetpack, backpack, Your uniform has a couple of slots in there for you. Your tool belt, you have a mining belt, all kinds of fun things. But what I want to do first is take the Atmos Analyzer, drop it into my handheld tablet, and just start freeing up a little bit of inventory space here. Also, I'd like my mining belt on my hot slot there. You can use those corresponding numbers here to open them up or close them as need be. So, quick little buttons for you to press. But we're also going to go ahead and swap out some of these. We're going to take some frames with us. We're going to take some iron sheets. We're going to grab some iron walls. And we're going to do the... we can do the auto lathe and the arc furnace. Those are the things we're going to want to build with first. So, once you get a thing in your hand, E to switch your hands here, and right-click to start using the thing. For frames, you're just going to get a little box thing here that's going to pick up, and we're going to place down a 3x3 frame to start with. And there it is. Sweet. So it is just a box frame. You can't actually fall through these because we haven't welded them up. They have 2 weld states. We open up our tool belt here. We can grab... Well, actually, open up our tool belt. Let's drop the auto lathe and these extra frames on the ground for the moment. I've filled up my inventory a little more than I had intended. But we can put these iron sheets in one hand. And in our tool belt, we can grab our welding torch and put it in the other. Now, while holding the welding torch, right-click, turn it on, and left-click to actually weld. Each of these frames have 2 weld states. You have the first iron sheet welded in, gives you a non-passable little platform you can walk on, so you're able to move around on top of it. A second weld to one of those will close it in and make an airtight box for you. And this is going to be the floor of our base. So we're going to go ahead and double weld all of these right away. There's no reason to leave them. And there we go. All nice and welded up. Let's put away that. Let's grab these frames once again, actually. And I'm going to put a... Where do I want this? You know what? I'm going to put... Sun is rising. It rose from that direction. I'm assuming it's going to set over in that direction. I'm going to say over here. We're going to drop another frame. We're going to float a couple of frames here, here, and one here. We're going to weld those up, and that's going to become our airlock and the entrance to our base. And go ahead and drop those there. Once again, full inventory. And let's go ahead and give these the old double weld, shall we? And there we have it. We have a little box. Our doors will go in here, as well as all the things to actually run, control, and, well, interact with the airlock to actually make it function. So, put away the welding torch. Let's put these iron sheets back into our thing and grab the iron walls. So, I hate the way these iron walls look. It's absolutely atrocious to me. So, what I'm going to do is... You can float them out here just off the side of your frames, and it still will make an airtight seal. So I'm just going to float it and put the ugly side out, basically. You can use the keys between the arrow keys and the print, scroll, lock, pause just there on your keyboard to do the movements, or you can tap C and it'll just cycle through all of the possible positions. I'm going to put all those there. I'm going to leave one empty, and then we're going to make sure we also put a set on the roof just to seal us in. There's no problem using these walls like this as roofs, as walls, as floors. They will be airtight, but they're not the prettiest, so do with that what you will. So with those down, there's a few other things we're going to want to get going pretty darn quickly, and that's going to be power. I have a basic solar panel here that we start with. We're going to go ahead and fly up here. Not everything can be placed on walls or certain things or just free in the environment. Some need a platform. This particular solar panel can place onto the iron walls, can place onto the frames and things. So I'm actually looking at the arcing of the sun. It's looking like it's going to do that sort of arc. So what I'm going to do is, whoops, turn on my jetpack with J there, and use the scroll wheel while you have the little outline of a thing, and you can actually change. Some things have different styles, like this one's got the little propped up and a flat solar panel build, and we're just going to drop that there, like so. We're going to grab our coil cables, right click, and again, they do change shapes if you use the scroll wheel. And we're going to go ahead and run some wiring just straight on down and just poke it right into our airlock. That way I can power some things. And whilst that is doing that, let's go ahead and grab a few more bits here. We're going to want a... Ooh, careful there. We're going to want this area power controllers, or APCs. We're going to want a spare battery. I'm going to leave the solid fuels generator in there for now, but I am going to take this battery charger. And additionally, we want to go back to our construction box, which I don't know why I ran all the way around. I was standing literally right next to it. And we're going to grab some glass. Now, this glass is going to be the final piece for this solar panel to actually make it functional. You actually do have to put glass in it. And now it's generating power. We just now need to start storing said power. And I'm just going to drop in our battery charger right there, along with an APC here. So I like this APC in the airlock. It's not necessary to be in the airlock. However, I like having a always accessible power slot for our airlock. That way, in case I'm outside or inside and the power does die, I can swap out the battery as need be. The sun is going down. Lovely. So with that in there, let's go ahead and grab our crowbar, and we can wrench this thing open like so, and be able to drop a battery in there. But first, I'm going to throw in some cables to make sure those are all wired up. Drop in that battery. Click the button for the battery charger. That way this will work. And when I flip this switch, it'll start feeding power through. I'm going to hold off for a second on doing so, because realistically, there's no need for me to do it right now. And instead, I'm going to grab some frames, and we're going to build out a nice little work area just out of our airlock where we can drop down a few things to help support our survival and setup here. So I have enough materials. I might as well just drop a new 3x3 out here for a nice little working platform. Put these frames back inside, grab our iron sheets again, and back to some more welding. Ah, there it is. Nice and welded up. Got a nice little working platform out here. I only single welded them as it doesn't need to be airtight, and it saves me a bit of resources. So drop that there. We'll drop this here. And now start to play with these other things. I have this arc furnace here. This is going to be what we're going to use to smelt up ores here in the early game. We don't have an actual furnace or anything, but we do have this arc furnace, which is going to require some power. So what we're going to do is grab our old power cables here, and we're going to run it right over to our arc furnace, like so. In fact, we're going to do it like that, and we're going to do a few more cables going down this way, because right in there is where we're going to put our first little construction machine, the auto lathe. Now, the auto lathe is of vital importance. Please do not lose it. You only get one, and once it's gone, if you haven't set up or have a spare one created or made somewhere, it's, well, that's game for you. There's not a way to recover from losing that. You can make more auto lathes and set up an emergency cache of supplies somewhere if you do feel like you're going to end up in that sort of situation while you experiment and play around. And I do highly recommend doing so. But for now, though, the one will be just fine like this. And for the auto lathe, if you hovered over it with either an item or a tool in your hand, you'll see what it needs to either deconstruct it or continue its construction. In this case, I need a welding torch and 2 iron sheets. We have the iron sheets, we have the welding torch, and there we go. Now, it requires 4 coil cable, and then it's going to require the welding torch and some plastic sheets. So, yay, back to the lander for me. And there we go. Oh, once you've welded up the plastic sheets into it and are done inhaling those beautiful, beautiful burning plastic fumes into your lungs, you can just go ahead and grab a wrench and finish this bad boy off. And now we have a fully functional auto lathe to start printing off some additional supplies. We don't need to do so just yet, so we'll hold off for a minute, but we will do some other things. Now, if I grab my wrench out of my tool belt here, you can actually go up to all these boxes and things on the lander and wrench them off. Now, I'm going to do so for probably a couple of these things. And I should probably, yeah, we'll take the airlock box, drop it off, get an empty hand, and you can actually grab the handles if you're close enough, and drag it wherever you want. This being the reason I kind of left this hole here. Front of my jetpack, and I can drag this inside, and we'll grab probably one other just to act as interior storage for the time being until I actually set up my own storage. Oof. In the box I think we're going to want most is... Ooh. Yeah, you know what? The box I think we want most in here is going to be hydroponic supplies. And we'll just hand ferry all the other supplies in as necessary. But I just want to get these couple in here before I close up the walls. That way I have some extra storage to start with. You can put as many of these in here as you want, but I'm just going to do the 2. And with those 2 there, if I take some iron sheets into my hand, while holding them, looking at these walls, I can finish the construction and start sealing myself in here. Now, you'll notice I didn't put any windows because windows actually confer heat into your structure when the sun is hitting them. So it'll just constantly be heating up the environment in there, and honestly, I don't really want to deal with that as of yet. I don't have a way to cool my base at the moment, so it's not a desirable thing to be happening. But there we go. All those, just drop those sheets there. And now we're ready to set up the actual airlock and round this thing. Oh, and round this thing out. Hold on. Drop one more wall in here. Actually close that all in. And let's check out, close the hydroponics, our airlock supplies. We have a few things in here. We have some pipes, we have kit sensors, data disks, all the things you'll need to set up a basic airlock. But a basic airlock isn't really going to work on Mars now, is it? Because it's only going to push air one of 2 ways. So either I'll be constantly bleeding the good atmosphere out of my base into Mars, or bleeding Mars atmosphere into my base every time I transition through the through this lovely little airlock. So instead, I'm gonna go ahead and take the one active vent, and I'm gonna turn the interior of my base into a vacuum. Throw the one active vent up there, take the one passive vent we have, gonna set it out there on the wall, grab some pipes, make sure we run these up over here, use your handy dandy jetpack to make sure you're able to see and actually build all these things. And there we go. With those hooked up, go ahead and drop that in. The last thing I'm going to need for this particular airlock, other than wiring up that vent, is some doors. There's a few doors here. They all interact a little bit differently. As you can see, I can't place a door there. Glass doors will not allow you to run cables at the bottom or to the sides of them, only through the top. Composite doors will allow through the sides and top, but not the bottom. And then you have a manual hatch floor and regular manual doors, which will allow you to run the pipes and, well, power cables through any of them. And we're just going to make a manual airlock because, well, why wouldn't we? Drop in both our doors, grab some iron sheets, and once again, that handy-dandy welding torch we've been using, and go ahead and give a little weld to these doors. And there you have it. The basic structure for an airlock. Well, for a manual airlock. That hasn't been powered yet, actually. Sticker coil cables and our wire cutters. You'll need the wire cutters in your other hand if you want to splice into an existing cable network. If not, and you're just laying them fresh, it honestly doesn't matter all that much. But we're just going to go ahead and hold them because we will be splicing into our system. And there. Bam. Set up. I can throw this switch. And if you look in the bottom right, next to the little portrait of our character, you'll see the temperature and the current pressure. External pressure is about 3 kilopascals in this environment. That's roughly what Mars is 2 point some odd kilopascals. And it's very hot because, well, the heat output from our welder. If I go ahead and flip this switch to on, and actually set this vent to go the other direction, it will start sucking out all of the air in this base until it pulls a vacuum. Then it'll keep trying to suck out more and just waste a bunch of power. So pay attention to the bottom side here. We can grab our tablet to check this, and with the Atmos chip we put in it previously, right click while holding our tablet, and we can see what is actually comprising the oxygen or the air in our base. Not oxygen, because oxygen is a thing that is in here, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at a medley of things. The Martian atmosphere has CO2, has oxygen, and pollutant. I don't think it has nitrogen. I think that came out of my jetpack when I was flying around in here. Do ignore that. But you can see what's in your base, how much pressure. You can also look at lines, so at pipe networks and things, and see what's in them as you're just moving things around. And I can pull a vacuum in here. And then eventually, I can pressurize said environment. Oh, and I just thought there are two more things off of that lander that we're going to want. That being the oxygen tank and the water tank. But we'll grab those in a minute. For now, we're just going to go ahead and click this off. I more wanted to show the example because we're not actually ready to pressurize any of this environment yet. So it honestly doesn't matter if I draw a vacuum in there just yet or not. So let's go ahead and close our tool belt, open up our mining belt. We can grab our mining drill. I'm going to put my little tablet there. And before I actually do this, I am very notorious with just wandering off in this game and going to explore for ores and things. I'm going to open up our survival thing here. We're going to grab that tracker, that round thing, and make sure you have your tracker chip with you. I don't need the network analyzer, so I'm just going to pop that into there along with these flares. And we're going to go put this tracker down because with that tracker chip, I can track the position of this beacon. Now, you can either hit Q to drop something quick or T to place it. I can click that bad boy on. Holding my tablet, you can open it up and see what's in there, battery and a cartridge. Swap out the Atmos analyzer for your tracker chip, and I can actually see the direction and distance from the tracker beacon. And now I'm safe to go off and explore and look for some ores and things. And oh, look, there's some right here next to base. There's a few you're going to want straight off the bat. That is going to be copper, gold, and iron. These are the three ores you will want immediately because you can't really do anything else until you get them. They're the three basic ores for building probably the immediate next printer you're going to want and some other, fun little bits. Now, you'll notice I got a ton of ores when I did this. My ore yield file, that is the 50% warning for your suit, seeing that my battery in my suit is down to 50%, which is honestly okay. And now I'm concerned that my solar panel is only going to get power for half the day, because the sun's going to rise over there and set over there. This is what it looks like. Bad position. I should have had it face that way. But oh well, we can go set it as a flat panel. But you'll notice I got more ore. I've actually changed my ore yield file. It's called minables.xml if you're looking to do the same. Ooh, fell off my roof. So that way I can, have higher ore yields. And if I hit L here, I can turn off my flashlight, save a little bit of power in my battery. That's why it's drained so fast. But, yeah, I've altered that file. That way I don't have to spend as much time running around and mining. And we can actually do the fun stuff in this game, the experiments and the other shenanigans. Need a drill here, hand drill. Go ahead and get that. The hand drill away. Let's put a flat panel in. Grab that piece of glass, drop it back. And yeah, sun isn't high enough to actually start drawing any power on this yet, but that's okay. Oh, there it goes. Starting to tick up. 5 watts, 7 watts at 2% efficiency. We're looking at 10, 11. Ah, lovely. There are other ways to generate power, but for now, solar should sate our needs. And I'm actually going to go ahead and swap out this 95% for the one in my suit, which, as you can see, green and blue means more power is being put in than drawn out. So, last thing we'll do for this episode is we're going to go ahead and smelt up our first set of ores. So, with those ores we just mined, mining belt, we can just slap them in this thing, make sure you've turned it on, hit the red button, and watch her go. She'll start off-gassing, so you don't really want it in your base, and it heats up quite a bit. Turn off my tracker, save that battery. But it is already smelted through that 4 grams. We're going to need more than that, but that's a decent start. Let's throw in some copper. We can turn on our auto lathe, and we can see there's a medley of things we can print. You're going to want walls and storage and kits and other things, but the immediate first thing I would recommend is a hydraulic pipe bender, which needs iron, gold, and copper. That's going to allow you to print off all of the atmospheric things. You need the hydraulic pipe bender to do active vents, passive vents, and quite a few other things. You need them to make air conditioners, filtration systems, and a lot of the stuff you're going to need to actually get this place set up and running properly. But you'll also need the handy dandy electronics printer, because the regular airlock chip, while it's nice to have, isn't really going to cut it for us. We're going to need an advanced airlock chip, which the only reason it's called advanced is because it will push air outside and inside to let it function as a proper airlock. Well, what I would call a proper airlock. This is a one-way airlock currently if we use the chip we started with, which is something that's great if you're in vacuum and you're not worried about air spilling back into your base, only about air spilling out of your base. So we're going to hold off on actually getting a full 2-way airlock set up because, well, we just realistically can't. But that is everything for the first episode. We got a basic manual airlock setup. We got a small structure. We got our first ores in and smelting. And our auto lathe set up. And, well, the world is our oyster now. So we're happy to go after it. Also, I'm curious, how we doing on this thing? Yeah, 34%, 171 watts, or 170 per tick. Ooh. Yeah, it's going to start setting and decreasing that yield efficiency. We're going to want a better solar panel fairly soon. But for now, that'll work. And for now, I say, oh, my copper's done. For now, I say goodbye to everyone. So, thank you for watching. Thanks for joining on in. And if you have any questions or interested in seeing any particular system, drop it down in the comments below. I'll try and get to it as we reach that level of tech or tier in this basic little getting started series. So, thank you to everyone who watched. And remember, until the next time, to stay safe out there.